A sprawling desert of green and blue stone as far as the eye can see. A patchwork of massive fingerprints, frozen in time, like an ocean of glass. It is a perilous journey to pass through its cold and unyielding valleys and crags. Yet in the very center of this expanse lies the jewel of the wastes itself, a floating archipelago hanging far above a treacherous maw, a refugee haven and a slice of paradise for those who survived the trek. You, lucky, privileged, haunted you, are among them. You are invited to experience a moment in the life of one Clifford Wyndborne and discover what happened in the Malachite Wastes.
Cliff, can you describe the day that you first smoked a cigarette?
Well, it's not a story I'm very proud of, but I was 16, and me and my family, we would go out during the summer, and we would stay in this house near the beach for about a week every summer. And, I was 16, which meant I could go with my siblings and my cousins. I could go into town, and my parents gave me a little bit more freedom. And on that particular day, my sister Wheeze and my brother Whistle, we went to town alongside a couple cousins. We were just going to pick up, some food. We were going to meet some people. We were going to go out to the arcade. And then Whistle, told me that he was changing the plan. And he asked me if I wanted to see something cool. And I thought, Whistle was always like the rebel of the family. But also I was 16 and he was like 18 and he had like tattoos and stuff. So he asked me like, do I want to see something cool? And I say yes. And Wheeze is like 2 years younger than me. So she's like coming along too. And Whistle is like, oh, I'm going to introduce you to my friends. And he takes me to meet a bunch of teenagers. They weren't like that much older than me, but they looked so much older than me. We did a lot of stuff that day. We kind of rode around on cars. At one point, they took us to like a range to fire some bows. I don't think it was 100% legal. Those kids, they felt to me very ruffians. At one point, we were hanging out behind a bowling place, and one of the kids asked me if I want a cigarette. Now, of course, I should have said no, but I really wanted to fit in, and I was a bit, they said that it makes you feel good. And this wasn't one of those, my father used to have those really old, I think they called it tobacco or something, but this was like a different thing. It wasn't one of those psychedelics too. I don't partake in that. But it was supposed to make you feel better, if you make you more relaxed, and they did say it make you feel cooler. So I did smoke, and that's kind of like how the whole thing started, to be honest. I do remember, smoking, and then I saw Wheeze coming out of the bathroom, and I like threw the cigarette on the floor, and I stepped on it, and I pretended I didn't smoke because it's one thing for me to smoke, but like Wheeze, she wanted to be an astronaut, and I know for a fact that probably they don't let astronauts smoke, so I didn't want to influence her. Also, Whistle went on to be a monk, which makes no sense if you think about it, because like just one day he went back home and he told us that, yeah, I now serve a different god. And well, actually not a different god. He serves a specific god that it's in the area he lives. I really should talk to him more, but it was really weird to see the guy who essentially taught me about cigarettes and also skateboards and also what to say to girls, which was kind of useless. To see him be like, yeah, now I'm all about peace and love and all that stuff. And it's funny because later that night we were sitting outside and I was smoking a cigarette because Vuzro doesn't like it. He's one of those, he's very into his health, which makes total sense for who he is as a person. But I need a little bit of a cigarette every now and then. And I remember standing outside with Whistle and I offered him a cigarette. He was like, that stuff is bad for you. And I remember just being like, you're the one who told me how to smoke. And he was like, well, I was just doing what dad taught me. Like, dad hasn't smoked a cigarette. And like, anyway, it was a whole conversation. So That's my history with cigarettes, but I am happy to tell you that starting today, I will not smoke anymore. Trust me.
When you wake up this morning, on this fine, beautiful morning that you have resolved that you are not going to smoke cigarettes any longer, what do you wake up to? What sound, what impression, what wakes you up in the morning?
I think I wake up the same way I've woken up for the past 12 years, which is Mist is complaining that Malachi did something. This time, she's complaining that he put bubble gum in her hair, which you should not do because it can get stuck inside the little rock formations, in the base of our scalps. And I'm hearing her cry out my name.
You hear from the other room, Daddy, Daddy. I told Malachi he has to get up for school or he's going to be late for school. And then he got mad at me. And then he said I was being stupid. And I said he's being stupid. So I flew over and I poked him a little bit, but it wasn't even that much. And then he put bubble gum in my hair. And it's so hard to get out of my cornrows when he puts the bubble gum in my hair.
And in that moment, I'm thinking, I really want a cigarette right now. I mean, I get up because I have to, and I kind of instinctively pat the side of my bed, and it's empty because Woozer is out, of course, but I just keep doing it until I remember that he's out. And I did get some tips on how to quit from one of my coworkers, the captain. So I try to do some of the tips, which first one is I need to relax. So I'm just gonna poke my head out of the room and just be like, Malachi, if you don't get ready for school, you are not going on that field trip next week.
Dad, you already signed the permission slip for it, but I'm getting ready.
I'm not even poking my head. I'm like already closing and I go, well, I can sign a permission slip. Just watch me. Watch me. And I just kind of wait to hear how he reacts. Because usually when Malachi decides to really get ready, I can hear him turning on the bathroom sink.
Yeah, you can hear the kind of like, but the rolling out of bed, the stomp, stomp, stomp down the hall, slam bathroom door, faucet sink. Shh.
All right, okay, now I know for a fact I have fixed the situation. So I'm going to close my door, I'm going to open my curtains, stare out the window, and I'm just going to take a very deep breath.
When you open the door to look outside, you live in this lovely little suburb in the flats. So outside of the city of Tarakea, you commute into work every day. What does it look like when you look out into kind of the suburb you live in?
We don't live in one of those. I know people have those like mass produced suburbs, and I think the work that goes behind them is really amazing. I saw this documentary on just the process of making up that spell to concentrate all of those materials into fully formed houses. I think great. But we live in a much more, well, eclectic suburb. I wanted to have a place that reflected my husband's more eclectic taste. So we live in a tree, basically. Our house is a tree. It was built into a tree. And we made sure that it was a socially conscious, eco-conscious process. The tree was not harmed. We consulted with the tree to make sure of that. Most of our neighbors also live in house trees, but we do have a few who have built their houses out of hills and mounds. So what you see is you do see like a normal road, but there's no buildings near it. Like it just looks like you're going through a very pleasant glade or a little forest.
Your neighborhood is actually quite unique in that way because while most of your surroundings and even the houses themselves in some way are still made of this malachite, it's one of the only pieces of the malachite wastes on this archipelago that retains any memory of what the wastes were like before Pesha turned the wastes into malachite. So these petrified trees and hillocks that your neighbors and yourself have built into have that real feeling of, even if they're malachite themselves, it feels like being in this really kind of foresty glade area.
Absolutely. And it's calming. I lived a year with Malachi when he was really young and we were living in an apartment. And I swear, the moment we moved here, he stopped crying. He just stopped crying at all. It's a calming place. The neighbors are great. And every Thursday, one of our neighbors down the street, he closes down the street and he puts on some food. And I want my kids to grow up knowing they have a community, that's very important to me.
Yeah, a nice block party. You hear from the kitchen banging around in the kitchen, and that's your indication that Mist is up and ready already. She often gets up first and starts to try and put together some semblance of what food might look like.
Right. Which, of course, I know for a fact that I'm gonna walk into the kitchen and she's gonna try to hide that peanut butter jar that she's obsessed with. I know for a fact she's gonna absolutely like move her hand and try to put it behind her and be like, "Hey, Dad, I made a healthy breakfast." I just know that, so I'm just gonna walk into the kitchen and I'm just gonna calmly like say, "Good morning, Mist. How are you today?"
Good morning, Dad. Everything's fine. And you already, not only do you see the peanut butter jar going behind her back, but you see Mist is sitting on the counter, your 10-year-old-ish daughter. She's perched up on the counter where she's kind of floated herself with her Air Genasi kind of background. And she has peanut butter running through the areas in her hair where the gum has been put. Your little daughter, always excited about science experiments, tells you, "Look, I'm making a healthy breakfast, but also I heard Miss Salazar say in school that sometimes peanut butter can get gum out of hair. And so I put it in my hair. And also, if it's toast with peanut butter and bananas on it, it's technically a healthy breakfast, Dad."
Honey, as I'm talking, I like it's like a routine. I grab the peanut butter from behind her body and I'm like, "Listen, honey, I appreciate that. Just next time, Daddy worked really hard on your hair. Just next time, if you're gonna put peanut butter, tell me, and then I can maybe, tell you not to do that. But don't worry, I can fix it. Just hop down, sit down, and eat a real breakfast, please." And as I'm saying this, I'm opening the kitchen and I'm turning on the oven because I'm gonna cook them what I always cook, which is, I got some oars and I mix them up with some veggies, and then I do the thing that they hate it, but I don't care. I put a lot of vines in it because they need that fiber to grow. They have half my genes, so I know what I like. And I start cooking for them and I turn to Miss and I say, "Just sit down, don't touch your hair. That is gonna fix it. Okay?"
Mist hops up on the kind of stool near the island in your kitchen and kind of grumbles a little. And you can see that she is like, "I'll eat it if I can have half of my toast piece." She's kind of like licking it in there.
I'm like looking at her and I'm just like nodding, just yeah, okay, yes, just eat it. And at this point, I'm also checking the clock and I'm trying to see if Malachite is still in the bathroom.
You hear the shower running, and the shower's running long enough that you're wondering if maybe Malachite's fallen asleep in the shower because he has done that before.
Or he's doing that thing which he loves to do, which is read in the toilet, and then he just turns it on. And I'm like, so what I do is I go up to one of the walls because we live in this tree, as you could have told. It's very easy for us to hear each other from different rooms. So what I do is I knock on the wall, which I know we're right next to the bathroom, and I say, "I don't work for the water company. Don't waste it."
I'm not. I have gum on me because it was actually technically it was Mist's gum, and she was throwing pieces of gum at me, and so I just threw one back at her, and that's what got in her hair, Dad.
Of course. And what are you reading again?
I'm not. And you can hear like a book go down. It's like, "I'm in the shower. I'm washing my hair. You always say to
All
wash
right.
my hair really good because it's mossy."
Yes, yes. Just 5 minutes, okay? I'm making breakfast.
Hey.
And I just turn over the mist, and the breakfast is cooking. And we have a system in our house where I don't know how it works, but Vuzo installed it, and all I have to do is just run my thumb over this little rune, and it starts cooking breakfast for me. I don't have to look over the pan or anything like that. So while that's cooking, I do the thing, which I've done this many times ever since, Mist wanted to have cornrows. I go over to my room really quick and I pick up my tools that I used to use on my own hair a little bit.
Yeah.
And even Vusro's hair every once in a while when he wanted to try something different. And I put like this like white jelly paste on her hair, and I put my hand over it and I say a very quick chant, and the paste glows, dissolves into her hair, and you can see the bubble gum sort of like,
Ow, 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 ow.
I know, but don't touch it too much, okay? And just next time you do it, don't put things in your hair. Most products and things are not made for your hair.
Yeah, yeah. And your daughter's hair is really interesting because you are very much appearing a rock genasi, but you do have some air genasi heritage. Your mother was an air genasi, and your husband is half orc. So your children are very racially unique. Malachite has much more of the texture of your hair. It's mossy. It's he has kind of a close cut afro most of the time. He keeps his edges very, very clean. Sometimes he'll get little designs, cut into it. Where Mist's hair is a little bit more mixed between your and Versro's like very thick, wavy hair. She definitely has some of the kind of vine complex that an Earth Genasi might have. It's a little more wild, and the ends of her braids are often kind of already picked up in the wind. So keeping her hair neat involves a lot of braiding and styling and products. And over the years, she's gotten very used to the fact that she can't really go into a salon and ask someone to do her hair. It has to be you or maybe her grandma or somebody who knows her hair very well.
And look, I figured that out in a much more painful way than she ever did. I
Yeah.
have a very vivid memory of one day going with my family to a field and we were having a picnic. And I remember lying down and my hair just grew into the floor.
Mm,
And I remember they had to, because it wasn't properly braided, it needed to grow. They had to hold me down and cut off my hair, and it was really painful. So, as long as I can make sure Miss doesn't have to go through that, I
yeah.
think I'm doing a good job.
When you got home that day, your mom was very frustrated that your dad did not handle that situation better.
He tried. I didn't give him as much credit as I should. I mean, I didn't know what he was going through. Now I do know, and it's like, and I don't even have a someone like my mom to go back to. Well, I do, but he's not really here that many times. And it's in that moment that I'm like my fingers are instinctively reaching to my lips as if I was holding a cigarette. I just do it like subconsciously. I don't even notice it.
And you see Mist, you're pretty good at hiding the fact that you smoke from your kids, but you and Vooster had a big conversation about like officially stopping smoking. It was really important. And that Mist is like watching your hands move, and she's definitely seen you occasionally on the porch having a smoke. And she's the one who's been bringing home posters like smoking is bad. We say no to smoking at school. She definitely once found a pack of your cigarettes and hid it in the toilet tank because that was something that happened in a book that she read once. So she sees you kind of like go into your mouth and she's like, Dad,
Mist, don't worry about me, okay? I'm good.
I'm going to serve everybody breakfast. And you see she starts like ladling out bowls and like very specifically giving more vines to Malachite and giving more ores. Like,
I see her doing that, and Vuzro also installed this. So as she's ladling it out, I wait for her to move on, and I just swipe my finger to the side of the table, and the bowl tips a little bit back onto hers, so it's not more equal.
Dad,
You have to eat your vegetables, Mist. You have to eat your vines.
fine. And that's right about the time that Malachite kind of like skates in because he's wearing essentially like hover heelys. So they've got like a little like thing on the end, these little like kind of hover wheels that pop out, and he kind of like rolls into their room.
I regret the day I bought them so much. But I smile, when he comes in, I smile, I say good morning, but in my head, I'm just dreaming of the day his feet get too big for that thing, and I can throw it out into the trash. It's gonna be a wonderful day.
It's like, morning, Dad. And he grabs a piece of peanut butter toast off Mist's plate, and Miss is like, hey,
Kids, kids, please, let's not fight today, okay? You two need to go to school, I need to go to work, and I need to do a lot of things, and I need to not do something.
Malachite's poking at his bowl, and you see that you put some of the ores in that he likes better. He looks much more like your husband. He's got your hair, but definitely kind of that half orc coloring. But he likes that rock genasi cuisine, that earth genasi cuisine more than Mist does. So he sees the ores in there and he kind of perks up a little and he's like, oh.
I smile a little bit seeing that because Malachite is a lot like me, even though at his age I was not getting involved in that many dangerous sports. And I guess Mist is much more like Vuzra, which does worry me a little because every once in a while, I look at her and I see her back and her braids have started floating on their own, which I've seen Whisper and Wing, my siblings. I know what that means. So just a little bit of normality like that makes me feel a little bit happier. It's the kind of thing that distracts me from thinking about the cigarettes.
He looks up from the bowl and like his mouth is full of ore. He's like chewing. And he's like, what time's Porto coming in today?
We're supposed to have him back around 7 p.m. He told me that he was landing at 6, but there was a debrief. There's going to be a debrief, so he might only be able to get here at 7.
So we can't meet him at the portal. We have to wait for him to come back.
Yes, unfortunately, you can't do that. And also, I think we shouldn't do that because last time you kids got really sad when he didn't come through because he had to stay behind. So I'm not saying that's going to happen again.
He said this time that wasn't going to happen. He promised this time he was actually going to come back, though. You see both of your kids looking at you for confirmation that that's going to be true this time.
And I'm like, in my head, I know I can't confirm it because Vusro has done this several times. And I know he hates it, but it's what puts food on the table. And so he does it. And I have to accept it. And I can't break their hearts because I'm looking at them and they really want to see their dad. And I really don't want to smoke a cigarette. So I'm just going to smile and say, yeah, of course, definitely.
And they both look like very excited. And Mist is like, I have science club after school and I'm working on a new diorama. And I think that if you pick me up from school and I don't have to take it on the bus, I can bring it home so I can show Dad what I've been working on. So can you pick me up from school after
I'll pick
the
you
science? Okay, thank you.
I'll pick you up. Don't worry. Malachi, can you get the bus back today?
Dad, I have practice. I told you I had practice for the Adventure Guild tonight.
I know. I'm just wondering if you could. I used to take the bus. I used to take the bus every day.
It's not about the bus, Dad. It's that I'm not going to be at school. I'm going to be up at Hephaestus Hall where the practice is going to be happening. Can I just meet you and like meet Dad at the way station so when the portals come in, I can just meet you guys there?
Okay, but listen to me and very carefully. You're going to text me when you leave. You're going to text me on the way there. You're going to text me when you get there. Do you understand that?
You see Malachite just like lights up. He is still a little on the young side. And this is definitely the first time you've kind of given this much latitude from going essentially from kind of a little bit more of the suburbs to into Terrakeia. But because of how often you take this commute, you know that it's safe. You can probably count on one of your neighbors to commute with him, something like that.
And as much as I hate to admit it, he's going to Hephaestus Hall. He's not going to a place I don't know. There's probably going to be somebody who knows him there. Probably going to be a family member there as well. So, I mean, he's not, knock on petrified wood, danger. But I need to give him a little bit of freedom. And I do remember that when I was his age, that's when I got my first bus card, which I was very proud of. So,
and this is like, that's not fair. That's not
Mist.
It's not fair if Malachite gets to see Dad before me.
You're both going to see Dad tonight, and I understand it's not fair, but some things just because you think it's not fair doesn't mean it's not. And my brain is really struggling to work without the addition.
And Malachite is like, usually he's not really good at being on your side about stuff, but he wants this.
Right. So I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take the support.
So Malachite's like, Mist, what if? Because Dad's gonna bring back something like super cool as a gift. So what if I make sure that you get your gift first this time? What about that?
And I immediately go, wow, look at that. That's very nice from your brother acting kindly to you. And what do we say when people act kindly?
Mist is like, but he still didn't say sorry for putting gum in my hair. Malachite's like, I'm sorry for putting gum in your hair.
We're going to apologize like real people do so.
Okay, Miss, I'm really sorry I put gum in your hair, and I'm not going to put gum in your hair as long as you don't sit on me when we wake up in the morning.
No. I'm not going to put a gun in my hair.
Not going to put gum
forever.
Not going to put gum in your hair until there's a good reason.
Forever?
Forever?
I need to hear you say it.
You make contracts, Dad, and forever is broad language.
Okay, hold on a second. Just All right. Instead of forever, just say to the best of my abilities. How about that?
To the best of my abilities, I'm not going to put gum in your hair on purpose.
And you stop there. Yes, that's great. Perfect. Fantastic.
This is your influence at work here. You, as someone who is an insurance adjuster for adventurers, while you might be not doing contracts like on a legal basis, you're definitely about how things are worded and closing those loopholes. And watching your kids essentially negotiate with one another right now, despite how annoying it might be in this particular instance.
It does make me a little bit proud to see, because I assume Malachite is about to be like, I will let you play with my gift, and he's about to do a loophole, right?
I will let you play with my gift if and only if you have my express permission. And Mrs. like, done.
And I just like smile and I nod, and I'm just gonna wait until Mist is like, she like goes off to like get ready for school, and I'm just gonna put my hand on Malachi's shoulder, and I'm gonna be like, I saw what you did there. That's good job. It's not gonna fly though.
But express permission means consent, and you guys always talk about how consent is important.
Yes, yes, but she's your sister, Malachite, and I've said this many times. You just have to be, your family. You two have each other forever. That is true. For the rest of the time, you two will have each other. So you need to, be nice.
Fine.
Malachite, I had 4 siblings. You have it incredibly easy. Trust me when I say that.
Yeah, but Uncle Whisper and Uncle Wing are so cool, though.
They were not cool when they were your age. And that's a lie. Telling you as a narrator, that is a lie. I am lying. So they absolutely were cool. But I'm like, and I turned to Malachi and I'm like, did you know that your Uncle Whisper, your cool Uncle Whisper, when he was 12, he wet the bed after he saw a scary movie? That's not true. I did that. But and what you should do, and this is a great idea, don't actually mention that I told you this story. Just play it, and I'm trying to do like a cool dad thing, and I'm doing like finger guns, like play it cool,
Malachi rolls his eyes and like wheelies away from and it's like, that's so lame, Dad.
Okay, don't wheelie inside the house. I don't, and he's off. And I have a moment for myself, and in that moment, I just sort of stand silently behind the kitchen island, and I eat my bowl of vines and ore, which of course tastes great. And it just hits me, as it often does around this time of the morning, that Vuzro isn't here. And that, like most mornings, there's a chance he might not be here in the night. And I do what I do every time I get hit by that. I send him a message. So I open up the wooden clamshell, that's my phone, and I inscribe a quick message. And I just say, like, good morning, like, how are you today? And I say, Malachite put peanut butter in Miss hair. I fixed it. And I send that to him.
Before you can get any response, you see Miss kind of flits by you. She comes back and she looks at you very seriously and she says, I have gold star. And at the end of the day, if you are really, really good and you don't smoke any cigarettes, you're going to get a gold star, because Mrs. Salazar says that it's important to have positive reinforcement, and negative reinforcement isn't an effective tool in teaching.
I'm just staring at her with the most placid smile, and I go, sure.
And she kind of flits out so she can go to your, I don't know, do you have I guess you wouldn't be able to like take your car exactly into the city, but
right.
Do you usually use public transit, or do you take one of the kind of like lock-in super highways to like a designated garage that you can commute from?
We usually take this transportation system that's, because there's this neighborhood ordinance that we had to communicate and ask for permission from the trees before we build anything. They graciously allowed us to also connect their vines with, it's basically a people mover system. Although I don't know what a people mover is. That reference makes no sense in this universe. So it's basically that.
For context, for our context, it's a vine people mover.
Yes. And we take those all together, and it takes us to a garage that's where I park my car. My car obviously is a beat up, if this was 2024, it's a beat up 98 family van, clearly belonged to an uncle who very kindly gave it to me. And at a certain point, I realized that as a person who gets no joy from being on the road, there is no reason or rhyme for me to upgrade this vehicle. So I just kept using it for the past years.
Absolutely not. Do you bring the kids to school, or do they essentially take the bus from this stop?
Most of the days, including today, I do bring them to school. So we do take the people mover and we stop at the garage. We take our car and I drop them off at school. Thankfully, they're in the same school, which is not, it's just really, we worked really hard. We tried to find a good school that they could both go to. And they're going to be here for a couple more years because they have a good high school too. So that's a relief. Before we go to work, I'm dropping off the kids, and like most days, there's a few teachers helping with the process, you know. They're welcoming kids in, and as I'm parking, I noticed that coincidentally one of the teachers welcoming the kids in today is Miss Salazar. I do recognize her from multiple PTA meetings, and of course, my daughter's complete adoration of her.
She waves at you.
I wave back and I motion if I could just say something to her real quick. And I make sure Mist is on her way. And, you know, I let her say hi to Miss Salazar.
She's actually quite a tall drow woman. She has sort of like a little, because it's not a sunny day today. It's just Solana Alpha that's out. So it's kind of a little bit greenish outside, but she still has this little kind of black lace parasol that she uses on a day like this because being in too much light is painful for her skin. She's this beautiful, like, close cropped white hair drow woman who comes over and leans into the car and is like, "Good morning, Mr. Wyndborne. It's so nice to see you."
So nice to see you too, Miss Salazar. I just wanted to have 1 minute of your time if possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mist said the darnest thing to me today. We've been talking a lot about positive reinforcement, and she told me that you taught her about that. Is that correct?
Yeah, we were just talking about how it's a really helpful way to motivate people to get work done.
Well, I think it's wonderful. And I go, and a gold star for you. And I give her a big thumbs up.
And she like smiles widely and she says, "Well, a gold star for you, Mr. Wyndborne. It is delightful to hear that you are not one of those parents who's really pushing back on that. I know some of the parents here can be more traditional and they think things like detention and
all right, I have to go to work.
Oh, okay.
And I turn on my car and I literally cut her off because the whole time she's talking, I just have this like, my smile is clearly going away. I clearly did not want to give her a gold star. As I'm driving away and I'm really like holding the steering wheel because this is one of those times when I would take a cigarette when after I dropped the kids, I would always have a little smoke, but now I can't.
You get a ding on your clam shell, and a little message. Looks like it came in from Vusro that says, "Oh no, peanut butter hijinks again!" Exclamation point. Tell her I'll make it all better tonight. Smiley face.
Cliff is reading it and they're scrolling down and they're terrified that the next slide is going to be, you know, and tell her, you know, I'll see her next week or something like that. So I think he lets out a huge sigh of relief. He didn't even know he was holding it in, but he just replies, you know, like, "See you tonight." And he sends like a kiss emoji too.
You arrive at Xena and Xena and you head up to your cubicle. What's kind of the day look like for you?
Well, my day at Xena and Xena is usually 3 things. So the first thing I do is I arrive at my cubicle and I need to look up my emails because there's a lot of claims, there's a lot of adventuring parties. Every day there's another adventuring party who returns and tells us how they lost a lot of their equipment, but surprisingly they didn't keep any receipts or proof that they lost their equipment. And I have to go through the admittedly unfun job of denying or asking for proof. Sometime around 10, after I've cleared out my inbox, is when I start having my meetings with the other teams and we start putting up cases. And then after lunch, around 2 o'clock, is when I start meeting new clients for the day, prospective new clients, which is often my favorite part because it's right before they try to get free money from the company and then I have to shut them down.
Who is the most interesting client that you meet today?
First things first. When I get to my cubicle, I work right next to the captain, my coworker, who gave me tips. I literally grab the top of his cubicle, poke my head in, and I go, "The tips are not working."
You see the captain look up at you, and the captain is an illithid. He's sort of squiddy, For as long as you've known him, he's worn a captain's hat. His name is Reginald. You do not know why, and no one has ever learned why. He insists on being called the captain, but he has not been able to answer to anything but the captain.
And there's a nasty office rumor that if you find out why, it'll drive you crazy. It's too unknown, which I think it's a little bit disrespectful
It's
against
a little
the Mythids Day.
insensitive, yeah.
Yes, it's playing on old myths that just aren't true.
Some of them get really ethically sourced brains. They don't necessarily have to, like, suck the brain out of you. That's reductive.
Look, I was 10 when they had the whole brain debate, and I remember when they discovered how to make the process ethical, how they created the fake brains. I do you remember Dolly, the cloned,
Dolly the clone?
three-headed sheep?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because they were trying to figure out how to get more brain lithids in just one body. I remember that. I was 10 when it happened. It really influenced me.
Yeah.
And that's why when I met the captain the first day, I remember thinking, I have to be his friend because he's a unique person.
Yeah, and the captain looks at you and he gives it kind of one of those, like, sighs that sort of ruffles, like, all his tentacles. And he's like, it's not been a whole 24 hours, Cliff. The de-stressing is just part of the process. You got the patches for these things. There are, ointments. You got to do something with your hands and keep them busy. Cliff, you can't give up. You can't be a downer, Gus, this early in the morning.
I'm trying, Captain. I swear, Tesha, I am trying. But the patches, I couldn't buy any patches. They ran out. They told me they ran out of materials. And I know for a fact that the patches can make you drowsy because they operate on a different level of magic. And they can sometimes affect your blood level. And I've read about this. And I'm not going to put anything on my body that might make me drowsy because I drive my kids to class every day. And I'm just really going...
As they're listening, Smorsh, the goblin who works in the cubicle next door, kind of pokes his head over and he's like, oh, you're really doing it then? You really are quitting smoking then. Wow. That's really brave, Cliff.
I think Smorsh is always there with a cigarette in the back alley of the office. And I think we both have repeatedly told each other we should quit, and we haven't. So I kind of turn to Smorsh and I go, how about you, buddy?
Oh, me? I'm not, I don't really have anybody to quit for, so I'm just, I'm just doing me, if that's,
Smorsh, don't say that.
Well, not in a terrible way, but in that way that I eat a lot of garbage anyway, and I think our stomachs might kind of work a little, literal, I'd like to, garbage is the thing that I prefer to eat.
I know. I went to a restaurant with you. I saw it. I know what you like to eat.
Oh, the trash from that restaurant. That's some of the finest trash I've ever had. I licked that tin can clean, and then I ate the can.
I remember they kicked us out of the restaurant for that. But Smorsh, if you want somebody to quit for, you should quit for me. And then I guess what? Sorry, I said something I don't remember what I just said. But you should quit for me, Smorsh. We should quit for each other. We should, because we're friends. We're co-workers.
Smorsh's eyes narrow as he slowly lowers himself back behind into his cubicle. And the captain goes, Flip, I heard they're doing some real interesting tours of the wastes that are being led by park rangers, and maybe you and Boostro take the kids out for one of those and get some fresh. Well, I understand malachite storms aren't really that's kind of poisonous, but when they're not in the middle of a storm, get some fresh air in your lungs. Remember what breathing is like, get some of that, get some good exercise. I know a guy who works down there. I think his name is Nat Hatchery. Do you know Smorsh? Do you know Nat? And Smorsh just looks at him. He's like, we don't all know each other. That's not how this works. And Reginald's like, oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't my intention. I just thought, maybe.
I'm gonna cut in and I just go, that's a great idea, Captain. Thank you so much for that idea. I am going to, and I want to say smoke, but I don't want to. I'm going to work. And I sit by my desk and I just stare at the computer, and it really does feel like every passing minute is like an eternity. Now, you asked what is the most interesting client I see today, right?
Yes, please hit me with that.
So imagine that about a couple of hours later, I think at a certain point, I start getting into not the groove, but at least the beat I start being like, oh, maybe I can actually do this. I went to lunch. I accompanied s'mores to our usual smoking spot, and I did not smoke. As soon as I walked out, I heard them lighting up a cigarette, so I know what they did. And then around 2:30, after I just finished talking with this lovely family run, these two orcs who are married together and they run an adventuring party, I get told that we have a new high-profile client coming in and that he wants to talk to us. And as I go to meet him at the lobby, I think my face falls because I don't know what would be the best species for this. What is the closest species to a living cigarette?
Oh, oh, what a great, actually, it is a high profile sort of tiefling elemental, sort of an infernal elemental who is definitely kind of like had some tiefling heritage, so there's a little bit of that, and they always have that kind of singed smell on them, but also they had some kind of like wind smoke, like genasi that was in their background, so they are kind of just like a living cloud of like slightly sulfuric black smoke.
And I imagine that in their clothes, maybe they have like these little fans to help air out the smoke.
Yeah.
But the problem is that as soon as I walk close to him and I get a single whiff, I know exactly what that smells like. And I just go, oh, welcome to Xeno, sir. How are you today?
Oh, I am doing pretty well. I've heard so many good things about how your office operates, and I'd be really interested in bringing my business to you.
And could it be that he's like a close talker and his breath smells like cigarettes?
He doesn't really have lungs, and so there's a really breathy way that there's kind of a whispery way that he talks, and so he definitely has to get close in order to be heard by you.
So literally what I heard is, oh, thank you. And then I just smelled that, and it was just like complete as I just look into his face. And then in that moment, I dig my nails into my palm and I'm thinking to myself, like, think of Mist. I'm literally picturing Mist's little face, and I'm forcing myself to have like an emotional, sad montage of imagining her looking at me and being like, don't smoke, Dad. So
he's got these kind of coal, bright eyes that sort of narrow. You okay? You look like you saw one of those sad adoptable animal commercials.
And I think the memories are working really well, and I'm starting to do that thing that dads do where you're picturing your child growing up, and in the back I'm hearing like a magical version of like a sad song, like a famous
in the
like,
arms of I will remember you.
But it's like, I will remember tiefling or something. And I think what happens is it works way too well that I'm not thinking about smoking, but I do, like, my eyes start to well up. So I immediately like go, I'm good, sir. I'm really good. Thank you for coming to see it. And I'm trying not to cry.
Is this a good time, or should I come back?
This is a great time. Sir, we will more than happy to help you. Can you tell me a little bit about your adventuring party? What are your needs?
Well, I think that I've been a real asset to my adventuring party, but I have some more unique needs whenever we go to a plane that's mostly water-based, anywhere with a lot of humidity. I get put out in a way that can really be a bummer to our party,
Environmental protection, it's a standard part of all our packages. I'm kind of like getting a little bit of the hang of it. I'm kind of getting back into track. So I turn to him. It's a standard part of our packages. We always provide environmental protection. Any situations where the environment is directly affecting your ability to contribute to the party.
One sec. Sorry, sir. I'm not used to being this corporeal for this long. Let me just vent for a sec. And he kind of lets the vents open up a little on his armor and sort of like.
In that moment, I'm just looking at him and I go, you know who would be perfect for your case? My friend Smorsh.
And Smorsh peeks up over and he's like, You sure you don't wanna? You sure you don't wanna get this one? Get this one?
I kind of turned to Smarsh and I put a hand on their shoulder like I insist, and my eyes are going wide like get me out of here. Like I can't.
And Smush is like, "Oh, come on over, sir. I can get you the best service. Cliff is one of the best, but with a mind for this kind of thing that you're looking at, I think you're gonna need Smush." And kind of winks at you.
Yeah, and if the client looks back at me, they might see me turning a stress ball into a little like little ball of. I'm literally smashing a stress ball in my hand, just like
If your stress ball was a piece of coal, it would be turning into a diamond, essentially, at this point.
I can't do that. Not yet, but that is based. I'm like just like smiling, but secretly I'm holding the stress ball. Like,
And this is actually, you get an alert, kind of like, it's one of the sort of PTA, like kind of metro alerts that you get, that the bus service that you usually use that would help get Malachite and Miss back on time is out of service today.
I look at my phone and it's weird because in that moment I go, "Oh, thank God, a distraction." Uh, I I'm so glad I have a reason to do something else.
And you immediately start getting pings from Malachite, like right after this, like, "Dad, the bus is out. How am I gonna get up to my practice on time? Dad, do you think I'm gonna be able to get to practice on time? Are you gonna be able to bring me? Should I maybe call Uncle?"
As he's texting, literally, I'm walking to the captain with my phone, literally going crazy, and I just go to the captain. I just lean over and I go, "I have kid trouble. Can you cover for me? I'm gonna clock off early."
Yeah, we did have that meeting at 4. Do you want me to say that you got sick? Or, I mean, I guess technically Xena Senior saw you earlier coming in. What's the party line here in case they ask about me later, you know?
So I'm looking at the captain. In that moment, I realize that I'm basically in a lose-lose situation. If I stay, it'll be an unnecessary meeting, and Malachi will not stop messaging me, and I don't trust these ride-sharing services, and I really want to be there for him. But also, I know that if I go to Malachi, there's going to be problems at work, and this is how I put food on the table. And then in that moment, I just have the best idea, something I have never done before. But I am so desperate to both go help my kid and also get as far away from this environment as possible that I just look at the captain and I say, "Tell them my gay husband had a heart attack," and I run out.
Schmorsh, who has overheard this, goes, "Wait, what?" And the captain's like, "Oh, gotcha. No worries."
I sit inside my car. I just let out the biggest sigh of relief. And then I see something which makes me freeze. I look down at my car and I realize that hidden inside one of the compartments is a carton of cigarettes. I did not throw all of my cigarettes out. And I look at it and I silently close the compartment, but I don't throw it out.
You head out to pick Malachite up from school because he now has his secondary stuff. Although you know that Miss also has an after-school program that's still at the school. So later on, you're going to have to come get her or figure out some way to do that.
It's a triple driving day.
Yeah. So as you pull up and you're kind of idling, waiting for Miss Malachite to run out, you see a bunch of kids standing outside, like behind the bleachers, and they're all smoking.
I think in my mind, I'm like, I should go there and teach them a lesson. You know, I'm probably imagining me going there and be like, "Kids, don't you know you're going to ruin your lives?" And they're all listening to me. And at the end, they go like, "Wow, sir, that's amazing." And then I probably imagine what would likely happen, which is I would walk up and go, you shouldn't smoke." And then they'll make fun of me and criticize my dance moves and also my fashion, which I am very proud of my fashion, and I don't want to think about that right now. So instead, I do what any sensible adult would do in a situation. I quietly look for an adult I could rat them out.
You hear the door slam as Malachite climbs in, and there's like a crossing guard waving kids across the street if you wanted to point out these kids or get the hell out.
Could it be? Oh, it can't be Miss Salazar because they're different grades.
Listen, I'm all about, like, you can see Miss Salazar, like, she's out in the community, like, the kind of, like, outdoors where they're learning about nature and stuff.
So I wait until Malachi's in and I make sure that he's in and I, close the doors and I prepare to drive out. And just as I'm driving out, I make sure to go past Miss Salazar and make sure that she's looking at me. And I just point at the kids and I go, Gold Star. And then I drive off. This is not who I am usually. I don't drive off and to ignore what people have to say. But the lack of a cigarette has turned me into a fiend.
I think Malachite actually looks at you and is like, "Wow, Dad, that was kind of bitchy."
Suddenly, I turn to Malachi and I go, if any of your friends or your sister or God forbid your uncles or anyone ever offers you a cigarette, you say no to them. You hear me? And it's like very intense.
Oh, yeah?
I don't want you to ruin your life, and I don't want you to make bad choices, and I don't want you to hang with bad people. So let's just practice a blanket, no cigarettes. Okay?
He kind of like slumps into the seat a little and he's like, "Yeah, you like say half my choices are bad choices anyway, so."
I kind of realize I stepped on it, and the manicness wears off enough for me to look in the rearview mirror and see his face.
You didn't like that I joined the league and you said it was dangerous. So, I mean, like, I'm not gonna smoke, but like, it just seems kind of like, I don't know, pick a lane.
It's not. Listen. We stop, and I go like, right, just sit next to me, and I motion for him to come over.
His like brow kind of furrows and he sort of climbs over the console so he can sit in the seat.
Well, you could have just walked. Whatever. You can sit, and I need you to hear this. What I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to keep my eyes on the road, okay? Because you should not keep your eyes on the road. This is a safety thing. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I kind of lock my eyes onto the road to the level that he might be able to tell that this is like a technique I learned when I was really young on how to avoid, awkward social interactions. And I just kind of go like, look, Dad sometimes says things he doesn't mean. When I say I think the league is dangerous, I do think that. And I do mean that. But I may not like it, but Malachite, I'm never gonna forbid you from doing them. I'm going to plead for you to not do it, but forbid you, I don't want you to feel like I'm holding you back. I just want what's best for you.
What's the difference between you saying I can't do it and just saying like I can do it but you don't approve of it? Because like that seems sort of stupid.
There's some things that I just know better about than you do.
I bet you that your dad said the same thing to you when you were my age.
Okay, well, guess what, Malachi? My dad was right, and I am right. And when you have kids, if you decide to have kids, you'll figure out I'm right
was
too.
Grandpa right? Did you want to run the hotel, or do you want to like live on Hesha and like worship Hesha every day and have magic?
That is not the same thing, Malachi. That is not the same thing, and we've talked about this.
It's exactly the same thing because you're saying what I can.
It's not.
You're saying what I can and can't do, and what I can and I'm not allowed to do, and it sounds like you're disappointed in me because I'm not who you want to be.
I just know better, okay? I know it's hard for you to accept this, but I don't know how to. I know these things because I've gone through them, and if I tell you to not smoke, or to not go to the league, it's because I know what's awaiting for you for the other end.
I wish Dad was the one who was here all the time, and then you went off adventuring sometimes.
And surprisingly enough, any other situation, I can tell I would have said something bad. But the lack of cigarettes, in a weird, roundabout way, makes me just take a deep breath, and I park the car, and I turn over and I put a hand on Malachi's shoulder and I go, I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like like I don't love you, okay? It's I don't I never meant I care for you and your sister and more than you will ever know. And sometimes I let that get the best of me. But I do love you, okay? Don't ever tell yourself that I don't care for you or don't approve of your choices. I love you, Malachi. You're amazing. You're everything I wished I was when I was, and I almost admit it, and I go, well, you're great. That's what I'm trying to say.
I want you to do, I think, what is the first role of this entire game.
Yes.
Which is, and might be the only, is roll me a persuasion check.
All right, let's not traumatize my son. Here we go. I rolled a 5.
I think it's not necessarily that your message falls on deaf ears. But I think both of you are having that kind of high stress day. Like Malachite is so excited to see Busro come home. He was really excited about his practice, but now it's delayed and stuff is going on. And you're on edge and you've been stressed. And there's something about it right now that, like, in this moment, you can see him blinking back. Like, he doesn't want to cry in front of you. He doesn't want to, like, feel like he, like, lost or that he gave in yet. And you see him kind of, like, slouch into the front seat. And he doesn't pull away from you, but he just is kind of like,
And I'll just reply, okay, because I feel like I've done my damage. And so I back up and I drive the car again, and I think we just drive the rest of the way in complete silence. And I think for the first time, I'm not thinking about the cigarettes, but it sucks because the reason I'm not thinking about it is because I can see I legitimately hurt my son. So
when you get there, Malachite kind of climbs out of the car. He's got his, like, practice armor. He gets this little, like, it's not a really, it's like a sword that has, like, heft to it, but they use blunted, not sharpened edges. And you know, the League is essentially, it puts a bunch of teens and kids in, like, faux adventuring parties, and they kind of, like, run little missions. They'll fight each other sometimes they'll go through, like, obstacle courses, but there's always healers around. There's always, like, they're pretty well
equipped.
supervised. Yeah, exactly, they're equipped and supervised. And he slams the door of the car. He goes over to where his coach is standing on the side, where, like, some of the other kids are already, like, sparring with each other, and just sort of, like, grumbles his way over that way.
I kind of see him go, and I'm wondering if I should go after him or say something because he did slam the car, but
You can't get all the way to where the because of the way that it's only cabs that are allowed to really drive within the inner city.
right.
You can only get to the place in the highway where he can essentially, like, walk down the steps, and like kind of like a little, like, bus stop almost, where you're allowed to drop him off. And by the time he steps out, like, unless you want to yell something at him, he's
I don't. I'm just thinking about how the the laws they had against cars being on inner city streets was one of the reasons we picked this neighborhood, and now it's keeping me from. So I just let out a huge sigh, and
You get another text from Vusro. You see that in the midst of this, there was a text, and it says ETA 6:15, but probably have some meetings afterward. Maybe home a little later than I thought.
I look at the phone, and I'm just going to send back. Are you sure you're coming back today?
Vusro just writes, there's, like, you see, like, the dot 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 dot.
And I'm going, don't do that. Don't just write, please, just
dot,
answer.
Dot. Yes.
Okay, I don't answer back.
You also get a little buzz in from Mist, and Mist is trying to call you. You know the school day's probably, like, near its end, but, like, she's probably, like, hiding in the bathroom or something, and she's trying to call.
I pick up the call as I start to drive back to the school. Hey, sweetie.
Little sort of hologram of Mist appears up over where you've got your clamshell up on the dash, and it's like, hey, Dad, I forgot something, actually, that's sort of important, and Miss Salazar reminded me that I have to do the science fair stuff, and the science fair is actually tonight, and I thought it was next weekend. It's actually tonight. So I didn't bring in my diorama.
So do you want me to pick it up, sweetie?
Yeah, but then you bring it to school, and then do you want to be at the science fair? Because it would be nice if you're at the science fair, but I know Dad can't come to the science fair. I wanted to bring it home to show Dad, but it would be even better if I brought it home and it had a ribbon on it. But Miss Salazar says that I was supposed to turn it in today because that's what the grade part is about. And I mean, I don't even know if that's really important really much, because I think the most important thing is learning, because that's what Miss Salazar says. But she says that also grades are important sometimes.
You actually stopped anyway, I was just going to tell you, sweetheart, that I can pick up the diorama for you. I have some free time, and, you know, maybe maybe instead of us meeting Dad, I could pick up Dad and we go see you get your ribbon. How about that?
That would be really. Do you think that that would be really cool? I think that would be
That
really
would be great.
nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I would really like that. Do you think Dad will come? And as you're talking to your daughter, you're getting a call from, you can see it says Leo Zena.
Sure, sweetie. I'm gonna go get the diorama, okay?
Thank you, Daddy.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. And I close the call, and I'm really I just take a moment for myself, and I'm like, and I do something that I don't think I ever do, which is I pray, and I just go, "Oh, Hesha, please don't fire me, please." And I press the call button, and I accept it.
And you see there's kind of like a very stern looking sort of kobold guy, and he's got a little pair of spectacles, and he goes, Wyndborne, I wanted to reach out to you right away. I heard about your husband. How's your husband doing? We value the safety of all of our professional spouses here, their sexuality not withholding.
There's a moment where I'm genuinely about to be like, what are you talking about? And then I remember my own lie. And, you can see my face as I'm going from like, what are you talking? And I'm realizing that I have the perfect opportunity. And I think about my words very, very carefully. And then I go, it was a false alarm, but he still could have a heart attack at any point. So we thank you for letting me go see him.
I see, a false alarm. Well, the most important thing is that he's well, and,
Yes.
Well, not to, but if it's a false alarm, is there any chance you might get back for this shareholders meeting?
Well, the thing about false alarms is the hospital asked for us to just be near for the next hour to 6 hours, just in case something
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
But
will you be able to?
Thank you so much for understanding, Mr.
We
Zena.
really do need your input. Do you think we can schedule this for first thing tomorrow then?
Definitely. First thing tomorrow. Hey, I'll even come earlier than usual. How about that, sir?
That would be very, very good. You do good work for us, Wyndborne, and we would hate for this to reflect bad. Well, of course, if it's an emergency, it doesn't reflect badly. But
right,
you know how these optics.
And it would be yes, definitely, it would be so strange if you poked holes in my gay husband's heart attack, right?
No, we here at Zena and Zena value you and your gay husband, and whether or not your husband was gay or straight, and you were also gay or straight, we would value your input and the diversity you bring to this community.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Zenu. And let me just say, you look particularly great today.
Thank you. That's very kind. My wife says I've been having some scale dander recently. We got a new treatment for that. Oh, that's very reassuring. Thank you so much. We'll see you first thing. First thing in the morning.
First thing.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
I'll be there 2 hours early. And as I say that,
look at you.
In my eyes, I could see. I go like.
We'll see you.
I'll be there 2 hours early.
That's great. 2 hours early tomorrow. We'll see you then, Mr. Wyndborne.
We'll see you then, sir. And he's go, and I think it cuts to the outside of my car, so you don't hear me yell out a curse. But when it cuts back, I'm literally just gripping the wheel, and I think I have another, moment where like all sound cuts off and my eyes drift down to that compartment that I know has a carton, and I'm drumming my fingers on the wheel, and I'm biting my lips, and I'm scratching myself, and I'm just thinking, nobody would know.
You're also realizing now that you have committed that you're supposed to be picking up Vusro sometime between 7 and 8 ? Your son is now at Hephaestus Hall. His stuff ends around 5 or 6, and that Mist's science fair starts at 6.
I have that realization, and I just flip open the compartment, and I grab the carton, and I park my car, and I'm sitting in the people mover, just holding it and staring it forward. And I go to my house, and I open the door, and I go get the diorama, and I put it on the table, and I stare at the carton of cigarettes, and I stare at it. And in fact, I'm going to keep staring until my phone tells me I have to go.
Now, here's a question. As the kind of buzz goes on your phone that like someone is trying to get a hold of you in this moment. You have spent all day doing this yourself. You are taking on the burden of both parents. At any point, do you think I should reach out for help from somebody?
No, I can do this. In fact, I start telling myself that I can do this. I start going, I can do this. So what I do is, as I'm saying I can do this, I put down the cartons and I grab my daughter's diorama and I'm walking out of the house and I close the door behind me. And then I immediately open the door and I walk in and I grab the carton of cigarettes again and I put it in my pocket. So I haven't smoked yet, but it's still with me. I think I'm like standing outside of the house and I'm putting it together. So I have to take the diorama to her. I have to bring Malachi with me. I have to then pick up Fuzro and bring him back. And you can tell that it's like stressing me out. I'm trying to figure something out. And then I go and I have a decision. I pick up my phone and I call Malachi's Adventuring League and I tell them, I say, hey, this is Mr. Wyndborne. I was just wondering if you could let him out an hour earlier, if I could pick him up now, today.
You hear the coach on the other end. He's kind of like a bigger, like, hobgoblin guy. And he's like, oh, yeah, Mr. Wyndborne. I actually, obviously, I'm sorry, I thought you were, one of Malachite's uncles is here. It looks like Malachite already called someone to maybe pick him up after the game.
Huh. Wow. Well, thank you for telling me that, sir.
I was told that you were aware of this. Obviously, we wouldn't have just,
yes.
Let him.
Yes,
I would have absolutely called to make sure that was all right with you before we let him go anywhere, of course.
I thought he was going to be, my brother was taking longer, so good to know that he's already there. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn off this phone call now. And I just turn it, I don't even let him say anything. I just turn it off. And I'm like, I kind of close my eyes and I open the phone and I think I kind of know who it is. So I just tap Whisper's phone number and I just put the clamshell up to my ear and I wait for it to connect.
Takes a couple rings where it gets through and you say, hey, brother.
Whisper.
Hey!
Are you at my son's Adventuring League practice?
Oh, yeah, he asked if I wanted to come watch the game today, and I we're back in town for a couple days, so I thought, why the hell not?
That's great. Could you do me a favor then, Whisper?
Oh, yeah.
Since you didn't ask me or tell me you were going to do this, but can you do me a favor?
Do I have to ask to come to my nephew's game? That seems kind of weird, huh?
Yes, it's really weird. It's almost as if he's my son. Anyway, so Whisper, if you could just do me a favor, can you take Malachi to his school? We're going to see Mist's science fair.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna bring him home when we were gonna get some pizza or something. But if there's a science fair thing going on,
Yes, there is a science fair thing going on, which I do know about because these are my kids.
Well, that's great. I'll tell mom and dad. They can come over too. I'm sure they'd love to see.
No, in fact, don't do that, Whisper, because we don't have a lot of guest spots. We can only bring a couple of people.
At a science fair. Come on, little.
Yes, we can only bring a couple of people in.
Little Miss would be so. I'm gonna tell mom and dad.
Whisper, did he turn it off? Shit. I'm pacing in front of the house, and my phone is like, you have to go to the school now. So I'm literally just running to back, and it's like a repeat of what just happened. It's me and the people mover, and I'm holding the diorama, and I'm just going shit. And I get into my car, I drive up, and literally as I'm driving up, I send Miss a text like, hey, can somebody pick it up? Can you pick your diorama out? Because I gotta go pick up.
I would love for you to make a check to see in the rush if the diorama makes it to the science fair safely.
I was really hoping you would not.
Oh, you were, weren't you? Yes. Give me a dexterity check. Let's see how that diorama fares.
Okay, I took a 10.
Okay, so Anna, I'm being generous. We're gonna do the +2. On a 12, you scuffed up a corner a little, but it gets there in one piece.
Could it be that one point where I'm like going to the garage, I trip and I let it fall, but it falls perfectly? Like, and I'm like, oh, thank God. But in my rush to go pick it back up, I kick it, and that's what's caused the scuff.
There's like a little bit of footprint on one of the sides now.
So I'm anxiously using my shirt to try to wipe it off as I'm driving. And so I'm driving with one hand and I'm trying to wipe it off. And literally every 10 seconds, my eyes are looking at the compartment with where I put the cigarettes back in again.
Make a dexterity check for me driving one-handed, please.
Oh my God. 15.
Okay. You are a lucky dog today. You only almost start drifting into one of the other lanes once.
So by the time I get to the school, I am so stressed out, and I'm literally like sending Miss that's like, "Hey, sweetie, like, please send somebody to pick it up." I'm not saying like do it now. Like, please, somebody pick it out?
So by the time you get to school, school is over. So Mist is standing up front, kind of like bouncing on her tiptoes, like, "Daddy, Daddy, did you bring the diorama?"
Yeah, I did bring you the diorama, and I parked and I opened the door. And I, offer the diorama in the seat for her to pick up. And I say, "You know what I'm going to do now, miss? After you pick this up, I'm going to go pick up your daddy."
Daddy's gonna come to the science fair?
Yes. So you need to take that diorama out of my car and accept that everything you do after that is your fault. And,
What?
nothing. Just take the diorama and...
Grandma said that she was going to bring cookies tonight. I told her it wasn't a bake sale, but she said she was going to bring cookies anyway.
Well,
I told her that the judges aren't
wonderful.
allowed to have bribes because that would be
Mm-hmm.
unethical. Yes, it would be
That's great
unethical if they
pronunciation.
had bribes, but maybe they'll just like the cookies anyway. Like, maybe we can put them on the other side of the room so they don't know that the cookies are from Grandma, they're from somebody else.
Sweetie, I need you to pick up your father.
Oh, yeah, okay. And she grabs it and she hurries off to the school.
So I close the door, and in that moment that I have a little bit of peace, I send a couple of text messages. I send one to the captain, and I thank him for his help. And I send one to Malachite, and I say, "Your uncle's going to take you to the science fair. We'll meet you there." And then I send one to Vuzro saying, "On my way. Can't wait to see you." And I send those off.
And the only one you get a response from is Malachite about 15 minutes later that says, "Yeah, I called him."
And I don't respond to that because I am going through a lot at the moment. And Malachite doesn't know any better because he is 15 and he thinks he can just do whatever he wants. Well, sometimes he acts like he's 15. You should tell him that. You should say, "Hey, Malachite, you're 12. You haven't had a real adult experience yet. Maybe you should listen to your parents, or more importantly, to your parent." I think Cliff is just talking to himself. That's something he does a lot.
Amazing. I love it.
It's like, "Oh, no, you're going to listen to your parents, the ones who take care of you and who have been raising you for 12 years and who know a lot? No, you're just going to do whatever you want. That's a great idea. I sure hope my son doesn't end up dead in a ditch because he did whatever he wanted to do. I'm so silly for worrying about that." And it's clear that, like, at a certain point, I start making these complaints that there's no veneer of, like, irony. Where it's like, "And I think it's totally fine, Dad, that you go to sleep every night alone and you wake up every night alone and your husband is barely home. He's home twice a week and he always leaves. And there was that time he was off for 3 months and he didn't even say sorry. He just said, 'Thanks for taking care of the kids.' Yeah, thanks for taking care of the kids, Dad. Thanks for taking care of us every single day, doing everything and then going to work and then never getting anything. And then having to deal with my family instead of seeing my husband, which I haven't seen in 2 weeks. Yeah, Dad, great job. You're so good, so much better than Grandpa, who never did anything that I do for Malachite. He never did any of that for me. And I'm supposed to be nice and just hug him and say you were a good father and pretend I wasn't crying to myself every other week, every other weekend. And I tell that to him, and what did he say? Malachi's like, I bet Grandpa told you that. And yeah, he did, but he didn't love me like I love you. You're never gonna understand that. And I think I look up and I realize I've been parked in front of like where Vuzro is for about 10 minutes just talking to myself. And I wipe the tears that are on my eyes, and I'm kind of recomposing myself and pretending like I didn't just have a full-blown panic attack and cried in my car. And because now I have another worry, which is a worry I have every time, which is I hope my husband still thinks I'm hot. So I go out of the car and I go off to meet him. And I think as I'm walking towards the portal, the area where he arrives, I calm down a little bit and I'm starting to like, you know what? Like I should throw out the cigarette carton that's in my car. I can do this.
I am going to make a luck check to see if he's done with his meetings or not.
What do we call it?
Evens for which one's he here and which one's he evens or
evens
odds?
He's here, odds he's not. Oh my god.
Okay, you rolled
please.
an 18.
Is that
evens?
Oh yes. Okay. I'm not good with math. I think that would be Cliff's actual reaction, and that is evens.
So you see Vusro headed over. So the way station has like this great big portal to the Feywild, which sometimes there's kind of like a portal station closer to Hephaestus Hall. But this time he had an adventure in the Feywild, and you see his adventuring party. They're kind of giving each other slaps on the back, hugging each other, like they just are getting out of their debrief. And he's got like his big rucksack on his back, and he sees you, and he literally, you can see in his eyes the way his eyes absolutely light up when he sees you. And he waves and he starts kind of running over to you.
And in that moment, I forget everything that's wrong with today. And I just run up to him, and I don't think we say anything. I think we just kiss.
Yeah, he throws his arm around you and he just kisses you.
And I think at one point, like when we stop kissing for a moment, I just go like, I really missed you.
I really missed you too, love.
And I caress him in the back, and I go, well, good news. You're going to your daughter's science fair, which started 10 minutes ago, so we need to get going.
It's going to be plenty exciting, absolutely. Let's go.
I take him to the car, and I think I did not actually hide the carton of cigarettes when I brought it back into the car after taking it out. So the compartment is just open and it's just there. I don't notice it, but I'm sitting down and I'm turning it on, and it's very noticed, like it's there.
And Vishro climbs in, and he sort of looks at it, picks up the cigarettes.
I quit today, honey. I'm not smoking.
So
well,
this is
forgot to take.
Just your comfort cigarette.
I forgot to throw that one off. I'm forgetful. You know how I am.
And he kind of gives you a pat on the shoulder. He's like,
listen, you're always giving me a hard time about the adventuring stuff. Once in a while, I've got to give you a hard time back. Otherwise, I'm coming home to you being too perfect all the time.
Yeah, of course. I'm not perfect. But yes, I quit.
Teasing.
I quit. I know you are. I know, and I think you know. I know. I quit, and if you can tell that I quit.
Yes.
I quit, and that's why I'm like this. So, yes, I quit.
I can absolutely tell you've quit smoking today.
Yes, great. And I do intend to quit permanently. So, that's my welcome gift, which is, I know it's not as fun as the other welcome gifts I've given you before, but this one will have very long-lasting ramifications for our relationship.
I love it. It's one of the most thoughtful gifts you've ever given me.
As he's doing that, I go, Malachi and I had a fight, and Whisper just invited my entire family to the science fair, so get ready for that. Don't make an approving sound.
No. That wasn't...
At least pretend. Yeah, I know...
No. That was an understanding sound, not an approving sound.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm a little bit on edge.
You're a little on edge, and I love you.
I know. Can you do that thing you always do, which is referring to when he puts his arm, like, under the back of my shirt and caresses like this?
He reaches over, he puts his arm kind of on the nape of your neck and sort of does the thing where he's kind of gives a little rub.
That's more relaxing than any cigarette. And I immediately like, oh, thank you. Ugh. It's been, I drove here one-handed. I somehow.
Well, that's not good safety. And you're very good at road safety. You've had a big day. Also, why did I get a text from your boss about my heart attack? I just said, yeah, I'm feeling much better.
Great, wonderful. And I give him a kiss on the cheek. You're perfect. Don't worry about that one. I needed to get out of the office as fast as possible, and I just blurted the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah,
and
got it.
Because I quit smoking, it wasn't the smartest thing.
Listen. Whisper does as Whisper's gonna do, and that's invite your entire family. Hopefully, I got your mom. That's easy peasy. And your dad, we'll just show him some of the projects that involve, magic doohickey stuff going on. He'll complain about that all night. He won't even... We'll just point him in the right direction, and we've got his attention for the night, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, we could do this. Yeah.
We've got this.
I kind of, for a moment, I drive one-handed so I can grab his hand, and then I realize what I did, and I go back to driving with two hands.
He actually holds onto your hand because he sees that you got the one hand, and he holds onto your hand kind of where the console is, and he sort of insistently kind of gives it a little squeeze.
Okay, that's good. I don't say anything, but I do look at him, and I do sort of caress his hand, and I do mouth the words I love you, which means a lot to me at this moment. To the audience at home, Boozero mouthed it back. You can't see it, but yes.
Boozero kind of gives you a squeeze, and he goes,
So, what did you and Mal get in a fight about this time?
It's the Adventurers League. What else? It's always the Adventurers League. And I may have told him not to smoke.
That is good advice.
Yes, but
considering...
I know. I got so angry, and he was angry too, and he keeps complaining about how I complain about the Adventuring League, and I know you did that when you were young, and I know you said it was the best experience and everyone there is great, and I love all the other parents and the teachers and the coaches, but I just can't. He goes out there into the woods, Boozero. He goes. I know there's supervision, but supervision isn't perfect. What if somebody slips? And
I know. Love, my love. Can't project your fear about my job on Mal. It's not fair.
I'm not projecting anything.
You're projecting a little bit.
Okay, well...
Because I know you and I have had these conversations. You and I talk about safety. We want to do that. And if this is the path Mal's gonna go, that's up to him. When he gets to be an adult, we don't get to choose that. But what we can do is make sure that instead of running out there like an idiot, going into the wastes and getting hurt all the time, that he has the training, he has healers, he knows the proper procedures of what to do. If he was going to be a firefighter, you would want him to get the best training to be a firefighter, right?
Right. And firefighting is the hardest type of wrestling, so...
It's the hardest type of wrestling in the world.
I wouldn't want him to send him out into a ring without any preparation. Right, of course. I just... It's really hard being the only one. I don't have...
I know.
4 eyes. But...
I know.
When are you going back out there?
He's quiet for a little bit.
They have an offer for us on Monday. But I was thinking, maybe, the payout from this last one was really good. We still have some things in the works. Maybe I find something a little closer to home for a few months, somewhere I can get back home every night. I know you've been really taking the brunt of this parenting thing, and I know that that's tough, because it means that when you get into it with Mal, I get to be the good guy, because I'm not there. And you have to be the bad guy all the time. And that's not fair. I know. I know we've had this talk a lot. And I don't want you to feel like I'm out there having some kind of glamorous and fancy... I'm not thinking about the kids. Because every time I'm out there, I'm in the Feywild, and 5 minutes goes by in the Feywild, and I'm scared that 5 years have passed here. I got scared. I got scared this time. I was gonna come back and they were gonna be grown up, you know? The biggest adventure that I want to have is seeing those kids live their lives, and I feel like I've missed out on that so much already.
I turn to look at him, and in that moment, I'm thinking back about the 20 times we've had this exact same conversation, the 20 times he's told me he would find something nearby, and the 20 times that he felt the call of adventure, and the payout was just too good. And, you know, with this, we could buy that other car, and we could put Malachite in college. And I'm just, you know, I just smile and I go, that would be great. That would be great. We can talk about that, but, you know, for now, I think the best thing we should do is just celebrate Mist. She really wants to win a ribbon, but even if she doesn't, we should treat her like a queen, basically.
I think that's a good call, my love.
And when we arrive at the school, I kind of want to survey the parking lot to see if I recognize any of the cars. If there's any, like, vehicles I recognize nearby.
What you see, you know that any of your family, most of your family who still lives on Hesha, don't have a car because
Right.
there's no need on Hesha. So, but what you do see is Malachite and Mist have kind of like a van they use when they go out venturing together, like kind of out into the wastes and stuff.
You mean Whisper?
Sorry, not Malachite and Mist. That'd be crazy. Whisper and Wing have a van that they use when they kind of go out. And so when they need more than when they're using just like their motorcycles to get around, essentially, and they are transporting more of the family because they came out on the ferry, you do see the like Whisper and Wings like adventure van is parked in the
Right. The one they spray painted the unicorn onto.
Yes.
And then I told them it was tacky and they didn't listen to me. So I see that.
You told them it was tacky and then they installed LED lights in its eyes and all the sparkles around it.
They purposefully made it even tacky.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm gonna look. I see that, and you know, I turn to Vuzro and I go, "I'm gonna park. You go inside because Mist is going to go crazy when she sees you, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes, okay?"
I will distract your mother in advance.
And he takes your hand and gives you a little kiss on the cheek, and he hops out.
And once he gives the kiss, I say thank you, and I let him go. And you know, I kind of watch him go, and my smile goes away for a moment, and I grab the carton of cigarettes, and I'm sneaking behind Whisper and Wings van. And like, I look around and I make sure there's nobody else near me. And I look at that building and I know my family's in there. My mom is in there. My dad is in there. I know my siblings are in there. I know my husband's in there. I know my kids are in there. And it's just like so much building up. I just open the packet and I take a cigarette and just put it in between my fingers, and that already feels great. That already feels right. I put it on my lips, and that already feels right. I take my lighter out of my wallet, and my lighter is like a thing I put over my thumb that when I flick my thumb upwards, the flame comes out of it. And, you know, I do that, and I look at the...
You hear, as you are looking at the kind of lighter flame in your hand, you hear, "Daddy! Daddy, are you out there?"
I immediately, like, just throw the cigarette down, and I kick it under the van. And I'm like, yes, I'm here. And I pretend I was, like, tying my shoes.
Mist runs outside, runs around the van, jumps into your arms as you stand back up. I'm like, Daddy, look. And she's got a blue ribbon pinned to her chest. She's like, "Look, it went really, 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 really well. My diorama, it worked. It was really, really
I'm
good."
like, "That's amazing." And she jumped on my back, right? So I start giving her, you know, a centaur ride. And I go like, "That's great job. even though in the back of my head I'm like, fuck, I missed the ceremony. And I'm like, oh, let's go inside, let's go.
And she leans over your shoulder and she says, Daddy, did you have a gold star day today?
Yeah, so far, yes.
And you see that she peels there's a gold star on this ribbon. She peels the sticker off and she puts it on your cheek.
Oh, thanks, sweetheart. And yeah?
Daddy.
You don't have to whisper.
No, Daddy, I do have to whisper because it's a secret.
Okay.
Really?
All right, what is it?
I'm really, really proud of you.
Oh, thanks. And I kind of hug her and I give her a kiss on the forehead. I'm proud of you too, sweet. Let's go inside and celebrate.
And she kind of looks at you she sort of slides off your back and she looks at you there's that kind of element when a parent is sort of dismissing the kid, she takes your hand and she does she stops. She's not moving. And she takes her hand and she holds onto it and she stops.
Sweetheart, is everything okay?
Dad,
Yes.
I'm really, really proud of you.
I open my mouth, I don't say anything. And then I do start tearing up, but I'm really good at clamping that down before it starts. And I take her hand and I go thanks, sweetie. Really, thank you for being you. And I go into my pocket and because I threw out just one cigarette, and so I just wait until she's not looking, and I throw the entire carton under the van, and I sort of go do you want to go inside? Do you want to go say hi to your uncles? Did you say hi to Daddy already?
Yeah, and I said that they all want to go around pizza, and pizza's really delicious. Pizza's actually Malachite's favorite, and I like seeing Grandma and Grandpa, but I was thinking that maybe when we go home today, that we can make dinner together, and we make dinner with you and me and Malachite, and maybe we make something that has peanut butter in it, or maybe we can have it for dessert if you don't think that's good enough, if it's not healthy enough, but maybe we have peanut butter cookies.
So I just let her talk, and I'm just smiling, and I just take her hand and I take her to school. But, right as we're about to go in, I kind of look back at the van, and I kind of lick my lips just a little bit, and I shake my head, and then I go back in.
Thank you for listening to this episode of What Happened in the Malachite Wastes. Each of our little adventures are spontaneous tales from our guide, Isabella Z. Vergun, and our marvelous guest. This episode followed a day in the life of Cliff Wyndborne, played by Michelle Lichan. Michelle is a Brazilian-born writer and comedian whose most recent work includes writing on Fallout, London. You can regularly see him perform live in Los Angeles with his sketch troupe, Rabble Rabble. Cliff's official character art was created by Ana Renee Chavez. This show is produced by Annalise Fischer. Our music was created and produced by our audio director, Ryan Tucker. Our sound team is Nate Kleeman as our dialogue lead, Jonathan Junkle Rodriguez as dialogue editor, and Alex Torrigan as SFX and Foley. Our incredible art team is led by our art director, Chris Gargoyle Pastures, and featuring our incredible artists, Caroline Gendron and Ana Renee Chavez. Our team would not be complete without the hard work of our social media manager, Jalen Rose, our Lorekeeper, Kyler Carter, and our server warlock, Alex Glica. Find us on Instagram and TikTok at The Malachite Wastes, or join us on the official Malachite Wastes Discord server to see more of their amazing contributions. If you'd like to support our team and the work they do, please consider subscribing to our Patreon, where you can find all kinds of cool bonus content like Session Zeros, Patreon-exclusive interviews and sketches, sneak peeks at upcoming art, and much, much more. You can find all of our team's incredible individual work linked in the episode description below. Thank you for listening, and remember to keep checking back with us so that you can find out what happened in the Malachite Wastes.